at the Verizon Center where the red-hot, star-studded Washington Mystics are looking for their 7th win of the season. But they'll have their hands full, this time playing at the top of the Western Conference, the Minnesota Lynx, who are undefeated. I'm Kelsey Nelson, joined by Coach Jimmy Fly Hellman. Coach Fly, the Washington Mystics, as we know, they're doing pretty good. They're leading the Eastern Conference, but they're playing an undefeated Minnesota Lynx team. Let's talk about it basically. What do they need to do to stop them and really defensively, stop them from scoring?
Well, last year these teams split 3 games during the regular, the Mystics won 2 out of 3. They split here in D.C. Both teams average around an 84-point range, but the Mystics give up almost 80 points a game. The Lynx only give up 72. So they're going to have to tighten the defensive screws tonight. Sylvia Fowles, she averages 20 and 10. She's shooting 65% from the floor. She's 6'6". They're going to have to find a way to stop her in the lane, maybe by dropping and doing some double teaming and taking the ball out of her hands.
And yesterday we found out that the team might be without Elena Deladon, who we know has been huge on offense, leading them pretty much every game on the offensive and defensive board. So if the Mystics do not have her, who needs to step up to give them the win tonight?
Well, there'll have to be a collective effort. Right now they got her listed as probable for the game. Normally when a player's probable, they're probably going to play. They will need her, but if she doesn't play, the 6'5" Thomas center is going to have to deal with Fowles in the low post. The perimeter players, Hill, Tolliver, TRP, collectively will have to make up the difference because Deladon averages 20 points a game. She's the 6th leading scorer in the WNBA. That's a lot of scoring to make up for.
And a lot of scoring is what we hope the Washington Mystics will do. Stay tuned for more.
No way.
Coach, how much of this is bad timing, missing Elena, and how much of it is actual problems?
Well, just Elena alone wouldn't have solved that. Emma and Elena might solve some of it. The fact of the matter is they're the best team, in my opinion, by a lot, Minnesota. I mean, what they just did to us, they did a week ago to Seattle, and it was just as ugly for the loser and just as pretty for the winner. They've had a little bit of a rebirth, Minnesota. What they've done is a bunch of their veterans took the winter off. Cheryl has upped the tempo for them, has asked some of them to work on their post players like Brunson and Tasha Howard to become better three-point shooters, and you're seeing the results. We're not in their league yet. I don't know who is right now, but we're not. I thought we had, you're going to have nights where you don't play great. The only thing that bothered me tonight is I thought there were times in both halves where they would score a tough shot and our body language was, drop the shoulders, drop the head, and that's not the way to get better. So we talked about that, a lot of the timeouts. And, when you have 3 post players who are playing way more minutes than they normally do, it skews the whole balance of our team. But that was as much about Minnesota as it was us tonight.
A lot of the times, I don't know if this is what you're referencing when you're talking about the dropped heads, but how much did pace of play also maybe play into it?
I don't think it was the pace of play because I think we're trying to play at the same pace. Here's an example. I mean, and this is not a criticism of our players that did it, but on a normal night, Crystal Thomas and Tiana Hawkins are somewhere between 12 and 18-minute-a-game players. And one of them plays 32, and the other plays 28. Asia hasn't been playing a lot because, she would be the 5th post, and she has to play 19 minutes tonight against, a team with 4 Olympians. That's not an okay excuse for us, but that's a reality of where we are with depth and minutes right now. Up until mid-second half, we actually were shooting the ball okay off, and we were playing decent offense, but we had, I'll say, silly turnovers, unforced errors. That was our highest turnover game in a while. And they scored on almost every one of them for a stretch. I mean, live ball turnovers that turn into 26 points are hard to make up. And part of it's carelessness, part of it is focus. I shouldn't say focus. Part of it's mostly carelessness. And, you know, those come back to haunt you. And then it would be nice if we were forcing turnovers the other way around, but we're not. I mean, they only had one turnover at halftime. So that's lack of aggression on the defensive end, in my opinion. You know, we're playing soft on the ball, didn't rebound the ball well early. We did better in the second half, but, you know, they had 7 offensive rebounds, I think 2 minutes into the second quarter. You know, we finally, you know, talk about it. Well, when we take it away from them in the second half, that at least gives us a better chance. But all that, it just adds up. It snowballs when you have all those things.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Taylor? She's been really consistent for you guys. But
Well,
tonight she was one bright spot.
yeah, on the offensive end, I thought she was a very big bright spot. I thought she and Ivory kept competing on the offensive end. You know, but there's 2 ends of the court, and we just need everybody to be defending and scoring. And you know, it's nice to see a bright spot on offense, but I would have preferred tonight to see some really bright spots on the defensive end too, and I didn't see enough of that. Yeah.
Coach, sometimes when you have a game like this, and there's, you know, as you already stated, there's a big difference between where they're at and where you're at. You have them again in 2 weeks.
At their place.
Right. But in the next 2 weeks, you got games in between, but using that as motivation, hopefully you get back to full strength to see where can we go in these next 2 weeks that we'll be playing again.
Yeah, we just talked about that in there. We just talked about it as a team. I said we play them again in 2 weeks, and we play them again the last game of the season. So we have kind of that checkpoints to see where we are. I think that'll be a better gauge. What I told them also, though, is that in some parts that, you know, we have a game that's just as important on Sunday, if not more so in many ways. So you need to have short-term memories at least about Minnesota quickly. I mean, you got to flush it away and come in and be, when we walk in the gym tomorrow, be ready mentally to prepare for Indiana. And a win on Sunday can take away this one. I mean, you know, we weren't gonna come in and keep a win streak that's like theirs right now. So the key is how we respond and play on Sunday. Not even Minnesota in 2 weeks. How do we play Indiana on Sunday?
And do you expect
I have no idea right now. We're being cautious. We don't want it to turn into something long-term. So we'll see where she is when we work out tomorrow, and then when she warms up on Sunday.
Was tonight precautionary then?
If it was a playoff game, she might have been able to play, but I don't believe in playing players on something that could worsen it. You know, it's one of those strains that you don't want it to be worse than it is unnecessarily.
Yeah, I mean, Sylvia's just been, for lack of a better word, dominant in terms of the way she's approaching the game. You know, she's getting deep position in the post. She's playing with patience in the post. She's played against physicality. She's played against double teams. And she's just kind of hanging in there and you know, accepting the challenge that we've thrown at her, you know. And we're constantly telling her things that she can do better. She's receiving the information, and you know, on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively, she's just been incredible.
And Lindsay being the all-time winningest player in WNBA, just talk about her game and how that translates to the success in her career.
Yeah, I'm just really proud of her, and happy to be able to share that number with her, because Lindsay's won at every level that she's played at. We're just fortunate to have her on the Minnesota Lynx. It was her arrival that in Minnesota that I think gave our franchise the competitive nature, the intelligence for the game, the commitment to being a great teammate, to be selfless, all those things that you would want, that you would expect when somebody says champion. Those are all words that you would attach to a champion. And Lindsay's been at the head of that for us, and you know, we're incredibly happy for her. She'll tell you it's because she's been around a long time, but it's not a coincidence that wherever she's been, that the team that she's on has had success.
Your shooting percentage this year is down a little bit, around 31%, but tonight 17 points, 6 of 8 from the field, 3 of 3 for three-point range. Did you feel you got in a groove tonight and you're getting your stroke back?
Sure. You know, whenever the ball goes in, it's always good. So I just want to continue to be aggressive and look for the openings that come, and just continue to get a nice feel every single game, however long it takes. So definitely feels good to shoot a higher percentage tonight. for all of us. I think all of us shot as a team a really high percentage, so it's a great feel.
We were salty about our loss last year, but Coach challenged each and every one of us at the end of the season last year is to step your game up personally, and we come back together and we put it collectively as a team, and I think that's what's happening right now, and that's what everybody see. We try to get better in the offseason. Now we're trying to bring it all together and just be great as a unit.
Back at the Verizon Center, the Washington Mystics' 5-game win streak was spoiled today by the Minnesota Lynx, and they continue their undefeated streak. The Washington Mystics, Jimmy, as we know, they just celebrated their team's 20th anniversary. It was a jubilant celebration. They were on a winning streak, but of course the Minnesota Lynx did. They came in and did what they've been doing all season, and that's win the game big. As we know, they have a great team. I mean, this is a team that went to the championship before, just lost it last year. I mean, so let's talk about what worked for them tonight to get this Washington Mystics win.
Well, for starters, no Elena Della Donna, but even if she had played, I do not think they would have been able to win because Minnesota's performance was flawless. 98 points, 6 players in double figures. Sylvia Fowles, we talked about in the opening, was dominant, 21 and 11. They couldn't deal with the post-ups. And then Maya Moore, hot from the perimeter, 17 points. She shot 3 of 3 from distance and 6 of 8 overall. They just were better. They have 4 Olympic players on their roster. They have 4 of their players coming off the bench are 30 years or older. They're older, but they're experienced and can still play. This team is deep, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. The fortunate thing is Washington has them in 2 weeks from now in Minnesota, so let's see what the Mystics can do between now and then to close that 25-point gap.
Perfect. And you talked about now and then the Washington Mystics now fall to 6-3, but we look forward to seeing if they can get a win right here on this home court on Sunday when they face off against the Indiana Fever. For the Round Ball Report, I'm Kelsey Nelson, joined by the one and only Coach Jimmy Fly Hellman. Now back to the studio.